Hey guys, Dave Tebow here. Welcome back. Today's tutorial we're going to go over how to use luminosity masks to add a little bit more of drama and mood to your images. Now, if you're unfamiliar with luminosity mask, it's basically just a way to select certain areas of your images based on the brightness values. This can come in really handy when you want to edit just certain areas of your images like the sky, for instance. In this landscape image I took in Portland, Maine. This is a shot of the Venus and Mercury Conjunction over Portland Harbor. Luminosity masks can be a little intimidating at first, but once you get them down, they can really take your editing to the next level. Now, I'm pretty happy with the foreground of this image. I took about a 15 or 20-second long exposure or so for the foreground. Gives me that nice soft look in the water, a nice light trail of cars going over the bridge here. Let's see if we can select just the sky area by creating a luminosity mask. So let's go to this Channels tab over here. Hold down Command on a Mac or Window on a PC, and just click on this RGB. Now by default, it's going to create a brights mask, which means it's selecting just the brightest areas of the image first. So once you come down here and press this little button down here, now click down here on this alpha 1. This is our first mask. Now the white areas are the strongest selections, and the black areas meaning that it's not being selected. Now with this mask actively selected, let's go back to the Layers tab here. Now I want to click on the Curves button. For some reason it creates a red hue here. Don't worry about that. Just double click on the Curves layer there. It'll take care of that. Now, as you can remember, we only want to affect the sky with this adjustment. So we click on our actual mask here, or I should say hold down Option or Alt and click on our mask. Now that our mask is showing, we can make modifications to the mask itself using the paintbrush tool. Because remember, we want to select our sky and nothing else. So we should make sure that black is selected as our front color down here in this box. And we're going to grab a paintbrush. Make sure the brush is about 1400 is good for a size. And the opacity all the way up to 100 here. Let's make sure the brush is hard round. Actually, let's make that 1000 on the size. Just start painting in black on the bottom of the mask here. Try to stay away from the edge. We're going to come back to the edge in just a second here. Now we're completely deselecting the foreground by doing this. Now we're going to go to this little magnifying glass looking tool here. I'm going to right click and go to Burn. I'm going to make sure this is on shadows. Exposure, I'd say about 6%, that's good. And that's a pretty good brush size. So what we're going to do here is just start painting around the edge. Now what Burn does is instead of painting, it's just darkening areas that are dark. It's not affecting areas that are light in color. This allows us to darken up the edge of the mask here without losing that sharp line on the horizon. Let's turn up the exposure a little bit, speed this up a little. This is just a mask, remember, we're not painting the picture itself, so this doesn't have to be perfect. Now see how that's spilling over into the sky a little bit? It's getting a little messy. We can clean that up by right-clicking on this Burn tool and changing it over to Dodge. Now we're basically dodging the highlights, which means that we're taking the bright areas of the mask and making them brighter. So by painting along here, it's cleaning up the areas where the black spill over into the sky. Helps us maintain that nice transition between the foreground and the sky. Now the big fat paintbrush is good for when we're painting areas down here, but we want to maintain that nice transition between the sky and the foreground on the horizon. This is where Dodge and Burn comes in really handy with masks. I think that's good enough there. Alright guys, that's the hard part. Now that our mask is pretty much done, let's double click on this curved thumbnail here. What we're going to do is a simple S-curve. Let's grab right about here and pull it up. right around here. Pull it down, shape of an S. Gives the sky a little bit more contrast. And now that we have this mask, that contrast adjustment only affects the sky. It leaves the foreground alone. Now this layer is still selected. I want you to hold down Command or Window on a PC and hit J. That'll duplicate the layer and do the same thing again. Makes the effect a little bit stronger. Let's do that one more time. Command and J or Window and J. That's a little bit strong, particularly in this orange area. Now it's a little bit oversaturated. So what I'm going to do is with this mask selected on this third curves layer, let's hit Option or Alt on a PC and click on that mask. We're going to refine the mask a little bit so that that last curves layer adjustment doesn't affect this orange sunset area quite as strongly. So we're going to use that using a black paintbrush. Let's shrink down the size of the brush a bit. Say 1,000. Keep it on soft round, that's good. Opacity, we're going to put it about 30% this time, because we want this effect to be gradual. Let's just paint across right here. Maybe twice. Now let's hit Option or Alt. Hold down Option or Alt. Click on the mask again. Improves it a little bit. It's still a little bit strong down here, so what I'm going to do is reduce the opacity on the layer itself. Say 50%, I think that's good. Now the last thing I want to do is darken this blue area of the sky. I want to have more contrast up here with the planets. So what I'm going to do is add another curves layer. And I'm going to use this same mask down here where we kind of blacked out this orange area in the sky. Now if you hold down Option on a Mac or Alt on a PC, you can drag the mask up and use it in this new layer. So we'll double click on this curves layer, this new one we just created. I'm just going to pull down until we get that blue area of the sky dark like we want it. Here's our before and after. It's a much better gradient with the colors. It's kind of a nice transition between the daylight and the night. One last thing I want to do here is go to Photo Filter. Let's do a cooling filter. I like cooling filter 80. I think that looks better. Alright guys, that pretty much wraps it up. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button. If you want to see more in the future, please subscribe to the channel. Until then, thanks for watching.